Part 6. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 51. When Shen Yizi returned home, Suyu, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately moved a chair and served tea, making sure to make her feel his sincerity. Shen Yizi drank a cup of tea and looked at the father and son who were playing on the swing, and couldn't help but ask, where did this swing come from? There are no trees in the yard, so the swing frame is floor standing. The swing is made into the shape of a chair, so there is no risk of falling. Qingbao sat inside, with his legs crossed, and Gu Swiding pushed him hard from behind. Qingbao let out a series of cheerful laughter as he swayed. The carefree laughter of a child is the most contagious. Just listening to it and looking at his adorable smile makes Shen Yizi's mood become extremely bright. The depression and irritability brought about by Zhao Si were instantly swept away. Shen Yizi walked over and took over Gu Swiding's work. I'll do it. Okay. Gu Swiding reluctantly gave up his position. Suyakiyu looked at the extremely harmonious scene of this family of three and once again felt deeply hurt. Singles have no human rights. Sister Yizi, what shall we have for dinner tonight? What do you want to eat? Hey, I want to eat a lot. I'm going back to Jiazhuang tomorrow. I'm allowing you to order a few more dishes today. Let's have a good meal tonight. When Shen Yizi said these words, both Gu Swiding and Suyakiyu were a little surprised. Suyakiyu moved the stool over, sat with his legs spread apart, and rested his arms on the backrest. Why are you going back when you're so good? I'm going to see how my new house is being built, and go into the mountains to collect herbs. Gu Swiding asked, what about Qingbao? It will be inconvenient for you to take Qingbao with you when you go to collect medicine. Can I take care of it temporarily for the next few days? Shen Yizi has space, so there is no inconvenience problem, but before she always traveled alone, and no one else knew she was taking Qingbao with her. Now that she has been with Gu Swiding and the others for a long time, she can no longer hide it if she takes Qingbao with her. Although he is not very willing to leave Qingbao to his care, wouldn't it be strange if he insists on taking Qingbao with him? Fine. In the evening, Shen Yizi cooked a large table of dishes, which was very sumptuous. She also took out a jar of wine from the space. This was not made from medicinal springs and water, but was brewed from the grain produced in the space. It goes without saying about the taste. A few people were eating and drinking until late at night. Suyakiyu also took out his bamboo flute and played a piece of music. The sound of the music is clear, as moving as the moonlight. Okay, it's getting late, you go back to sleep. Shen Yizi pushed the sleepy Qingbao into Gu Swiding's arms. Let him sleep with you tonight, so he can get used to it in advance. Gu Swiding solemnly held the dumplings in his arms. How many days are you going? 2 or 3 days, I'll be back soon. After all, I can't bear to be separated from Qingbao for too long. Shen Yizi leaned over and kissed Qingbao gently on the cheek. Gu Swiding looked at her beautiful profile in the moonlight, and felt an unspeakable tenderness in his heart. Don't worry, I will definitely take good care of Qingbao. Gu Swiding held Qingbao in one hand and lifted the drunk Suyu up with the other hand, and jumped directly over the wall to the yard next door. Only Shen Yizi and the snake Yu Chain were left in the yard. She cleaned up the messy table and began to prepare Qingbao's meals for the next few days. Qingbao has now become a spiritual body. If he can always be fed with spiritual food, it will be of great benefit to his future cultivation. There is no need to wait until the future, there are many benefits now. She needs to practice to increase her cultivation, but what about Qingbao? The body is absorbing spiritual energy on its own all the time. So even if he doesn't know how to practice, his cultivation is steadily increasing. Shen Yizi would never let him eat food from the outside, leaving impurities in his body. So she planned to make some steamed buns, dumplings, glutinous rice, and other foods that are easy to heat and prepare them for Qingbao. Of course, Snacks are also indispensable. This night, Shenyazi did not practice and spent all his time making food. Early the next morning, Shenyazi called Guswitting over and gave instructions for a while. The food in this big cupboard is Qingbao's food for the past few days. You can cook it for him on time. If you can't cook it, you can hire a servant temporarily. In short, you can't give Qingbao food from outside, you know. Guswitting looked at the cabinet full of food and nodded. He asked again, "What about me, and Feng Quan?" Shenyazi glanced at him strangely, "You two can just deal with it for a few times. Do you still need to ask me?" Guswitting. It hurts my heart. At this moment, she realized how big the gap between him and Qingbao was in her mind. After his reminder, Shenyazi warned again worriedly, "You have to keep an eye on Sujaki Yu for me and don't let him steal Qingbao's snacks." Speaking, he opened another cabinet, which was filled with a dazzling array of snacks, including candies, preserved fruits, dried meat, biscuits, cakes, snacks. Guswitting looked at it with a rare feeling of jealousy. No, this must be an illusion. How could he be jealous of Qingbao because he has so many snacks? Shenyazi followed Yi Chang's teachings and carved formation patterns on these large cupboards containing food, and then installed spiritual stones at the eyes and nodes of the formation. Of course it is not a real spirit stone, but a container made of jade, which contains a certain spiritual spring. In this way, it is almost the same as a spirit stone in terms of function. This formation functions like a refrigerator, keeping food fresh. It is March in spring, and the food will not go bad if it has been stored for 2 days, but it is still not fresh, right? Shenyazi would not let stale things enter Qingbao's stomach. She had put a lot of effort into making the little cub grow up healthy and lively. When he grows up, if he doesn't respect her properly, or if another woman goes against her, let's see how she deals with him. Qingbao, who was sleeping like a pig next door, seemed to have woken up, turned over and fell asleep again. Okay, that's basically it. As long as King Bao has food, it's easy to take with you. Shenyazi summed it up in one sentence. In this regard, Guswitting was non-committal. Well, I'll leave the key to my house to you for the time being. You must not betray my trust. Shenyazi patted Guswitting on the shoulder. Just as she was about to retreat, Guswitting suddenly took a step forward, lowered her head and said in her ear, "Don't worry, I will take good care of Qingbao. When you go into the mountains to collect medicine, you must also pay attention to safety. If you encounter danger, just take this." A loud arrow opened. He handed over a rattling arrow. Shenyazi took it and held it tightly. "Okay, it's getting late. The porridge is cooking in the kitchen. Qingbao is up. Remember to feed him. This is also the last time you and Suyu will enjoy before I come back. It's dinner, cherish it. I'm leaving." She raised her hand at him and walked out of the courtyard gracefully. "Xiao Chang, help me keep an eye on Qingbao." She sent a message to Yi Chang's spiritual consciousness. Yu Chang, who was wrapped around Qingbao's arm, replied, "Don't worry, nothing will happen to you as long as I'm here. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome." Author, 955. Chapter 52. Shenyazi first went to the market and bought a green donkey, then rode out of the city and headed for Ljiazhuang. The donkey is an ordinary donkey, there is nothing special about it, but after following her, it is destined to not be an ordinary donkey. In a deserted place, she fed it some beans and grass produced in the space, and the water she gave it to drink was also mixed with spiritual springs. In short, she has always been generous with her people and things. The donkey ate spiritual food and drank spiritual water, became much closer to Shenyazi, and became much faster. Less than an hour later, Ljiazhuang appeared in sight. Shenyazi went straight to the construction site. I expected to see a busy construction scene. After all, she was paid enough wages, the food was good enough, and there were two people, Li Jingjin and Aunt Li, on duty. There was no reason why the workers would be lazy, right? However, when she took a look, the situation was somewhat beyond her expectation. "You ungrateful thing, your parents died early when you were a child without my help. How could you have grown so big? You still want to marry a wife and have children, bah." Every family was having a hard time at that time. "I thought you were really pitiful, so I gave you 3 gold rations from my family. Otherwise, how could you have grown so tall? And our 3 golds were deprived of money, and our bodies and bones were broken. He looks like a hemp pole, and he hasn't married yet. Tell me, are you responsible?" That sharp and high-pitched voice, the sarcastic face, the logic made out of nothing, and the unreasonable behavior, who is it not Mrs. Wang? And there was a short, fat scoundrel lying on the ground, who could he be if he wasn't Li Sanjin? Shen Yizi immediately laughed. "Okay, these two people really don't have long memories. She has only been away for a few days, and she actually came to her door to make trouble again?" She drove the green donkey forward and swung the whip at Li Sanjin. "Ouch, which dares to hit me?" Li Sanjin jumped up. Seeing Shen Yizi sitting on the donkey, staring down at him coldly, Li Sanjin was suddenly dominated by a wave of fear. His whole body was so excited that he hid behind Mrs. Wang. The people around who were watching the show burst into laughter. Shen Yizi glanced over leisurely. "What, you don't have to work anymore? It is human nature to watch gossip and join in the fun, but these workers have taken her money, so there is no reason to stop working and watch the fun here." The workers dispersed in an instant and went to work. Li Jingjin felt very guilty about this. Dr. Shen gave him full responsibility for the construction of the house, but the progress of the construction was delayed because of him. Here Mrs. Wang comforted Li Sanjin, turned to glare at Shen Yizi, put her hands on her hips and spat at her, and a string of greetings to her parents and human organs came out. Shen Yizi flicked the whip, causing a crisp sound of breaking through the air. Mrs. Wang was startled, but the whip did not fall on her. Instead, she backed away in panic and tripped over a stone on the ground. Just as he was about to get up and curse at Shen Yizi, he suddenly felt a sharp itch all over his body, as did Li Sanjin next to him. The itching was so evil, it came so fiercely that it itched deep into the bone marrow. They scratched their flesh and blood and still couldn't get rid of the itching. "Ah, it's so itchy." The mother and son couldn't bear the itching, so they actually took off their clothes in public to make it easier to scratch the itch. Shen Yizi sat on the back of a donkey, watching this scene, his heart condensed. Itching powder has been developed for a long time, but she has never been able to find anyone to test it. Now that the mother and son have bumped into each other, how can she not satisfy them? The mother and son exposed their and scratched their bodies until they were dripping with blood. It was both eye-catching and scary to watch. Everyone could not help but stay away for fear of being infected. "Bitch! Did you do it with your hands? Please help us stop the itching, ah! It's so itchy. Mom, I can't stand it." Li Sanjin first screamed at Shen Yizi, but soon he was so itchy that he rolled on the ground. Original Mrs. Wang was not much better. Shen Yizi said to Li Jingjin, "Okay, let's carry them away so that they don't get in the way here." Li Jingjin hurriedly asked a few people to carry Mrs. Wang and her son away. After this incident, everyone was working seriously on the surface, but in fact they were already muttering in their hearts. I guessed that the behavior of Mrs. Wang and her son had something to do with Shen Yizi. Thinking of how itchy they were, and looking at Shen Yizi, I felt a little scared for no reason. Awe comes from the heart. Aunt Li came back from washing the vegetables. When she saw her, she walked a few steps to greet her. "Ji Niang, you are back. You think you can let go of such a big thing as building a house?" she complained, but her face was full of joy at seeing her. "I don't believe you and Jin Gang. By the way, Auntie, I came back just now and saw Mrs. Wang and her son acting havoc here. What's going on? Aunt Li slapped her thigh and said, "Hey, what else could be going on? I'm jealous. Seeing that you have a lot of wages and good food here, I come here all day long to make trouble, hoping that Jingen will let her family Sanjin come to work. That Sanjin, who is over 30 years old, idles around all day long. Where is the material for work?" Naturally, Jingen disagreed, so Mrs. Wang and Li Sanjin lay on the ground to fool around. Li Jingjin came back. Hearing this, he walked over with his head lowered and said, "Dr. Shen, I have failed to live up to your expectations and failed to do what you asked me to do. Please remove me." Shen Yazi glanced at the construction site. The foundation had been laid, and even half of the first hall had been raised. This speed was really not slow, which showed that Li Jingjin, the contractor, was still very qualified. As for what happened to Mrs. Wang, I can't blame him. I can only say that the mother and son were too shameless. Shen Yazi told Li Jingjin what he said and patted him on the shoulder. "I guess Mrs. Wang won't dare to make trouble in the future. If she makes trouble again, you will have someone find me." She gave him the address. Li Jingjin nodded heavily. Shen Yazi walked around the construction site. The workers were blowing sand, laying bricks, and building walls. They were all performing their duties, and it was a lively scene. After reading it, she learned some specific information from Li Jingjin and Aunt Li, left a sum of money for each of them, and led the little donkey into the mountains. As soon as she entered the dense forest, she took the donkey into the space. "Use the magic of lightning yourself and walk quickly." This time she went into the mountains for another purpose besides collecting medicine, which was to refine the poison. Zhao Si tried to use poisonous insects to harm her before, which was a wake-up call for her. What if someone else targets Qingbao? Qingbao is very curious. He wants to pick up everything, look at it, touch it, or even bite it. Even if he has Yi Chang to look after him, Yi Chang cannot cover everything. So she wanted to make a voodoo insect to protect Qingbao, and use the voodoo to defeat the voodoo and nip it in the bud. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 53. As for the method of refining gu, it is not in the Taiyuanjing, and Yi Chang has not dabbled in the matter of gu insects, but don't forget that in his previous life, he also cultivated to the level of an immortal, and that knowledge alone is a supreme treasure. The various techniques and tips recorded in his mind should not be too many. Just take out one at random and it will be enough for Shen Yazi to digest. This time Yu Chain came up with a book called The Book of Insects on how to control insects. Despite the simple name, the content inside is all-encompassing and diverse. It is a comprehensive encyclopedia about insects. Gu bugs are also a type of bugs, so they are naturally included. What Shen Yazi wants to refine this time is a very random kind of gu, 9 poison gu. She chose a location, dug a deep pit, buried a pottery urn with a big belly and a narrow mouth inside, and started to set up the formation using the pottery urn as the formation eye. After carving out the formation patterns, Shen Yazi placed homemade spiritual stones on the formation eyes and various nodes to activate the formation. In an instant, the complex and mysterious formation patterns were penetrated by spiritual energy, and then quickly disappeared after appearing. This formation is called the three-fighting formation, and its function is useless. It can only attract bugs and optimize the bugs in the formation, but it is perfect for refining gu. After that, Shen Yazi repeated the previous operation and set up 3 battle arrays in the remaining 8 places. The 9 three-fighting formations are connected with each other to form a large-scale three-fighting formation, which has a stronger effect. Each three-fighting formation can attract a large number of insects, and those insects will enter the pottery urn to fight and devour each other until the poisonous insects are born. The 9 formations will give birth to 9 poisonous insects. When the time comes, she will put the 9 poisonous insects into a pot and let them continue to fight and devour them. The one that survives in the end is the 9 poisonous insects. 9 is the extreme number, representing infinity, which means that this kind of poisonous insect is born from countless poisonous insects. However, because there were too many insects attracted during the refining process, and there was no certain direction, no one knew what the final goo worm would be like until the last moment. Even the strength and toxicity of the goo insect cannot be determined. The refined goo insect may be very powerful, or it may be just cute. That's why she said it was a very random poison. After setting up the formation, she only needs to put a drop of her own blood into it every 2 hours. The rest of the time, she does not need to take special care of it. But the distance between the 9 formations is not short, so it would take a lot of time for her to feed them one by one. Fortunately, she now has a donkey to travel with. After being fed with spiritual food and spiritual springs, as well as being baptized by spiritual energy in the space, although this donkey has not yet completely changed, its spiritual intelligence has obviously increased a lot, and it can understand some of her simple instructions. After riding the donkey and walking through each formation, the donkey memorized the route. Shenyazi no longer needed to direct her. She only needed to sit on the donkey's back and come down to feed the goo worms blood when they arrived at the destination. She can take the opportunity to practice and recover on the back of a donkey. After all, every drop of blood you feed is essence and blood, and every drop of essence and blood in your body is precious and cannot be wasted easily. Fortunately, she has a spiritual spring and a large amount of blood replenishing and rejuvenating elixirs as a backing. Otherwise, let alone a small chi-refining monk, she would not dare to play like this even in the foundation building stage. I just hope she has better luck and the refined goo worms are not too useless. Otherwise, I would be sorry for her conscientious bloodletting. 2 days passed in a flash, and the goo insects in the 9-3 fighting formations were born. The last step, Shenyazi plans to complete in space. Mi and Wen, set up a pregnant goo array, and put 9 goo insects into it. Add a drop of blood every hour. As a result, the consumption will be even greater. While practicing, Shenyazi crazily swallowed spiritual springs and at the same time ate a large amount of blood replenishing spiritual food in order to replenish as much of the energy and blood he had consumed. With such rapid consumption and replenishment, 1 day passed, she broke through to the 3rd level of chi refining, and the fight among the goo insects in the pottery urn also entered the final stage. When she looked around, she found that there were only 2 poisonous insects left inside, a purple poisonous scorpion and a red frog, both of which looked troublesome. When it was time to bleed, she instilled a drop of blood. This drop of blood was like a catalyst, causing the fight between the last 2 goo insects to escalate instantly and become extremely fierce. Shenyazi watched calmly, waiting for the moment when goo would be successful. Finally, there was only 1 goo insect left in the pottery urn. To her surprise, the red frog was the one who survived to the end. However, the red frog was also scarred and lay motionless on the bottom of the wen, and its breath was getting weaker and weaker. "You're not going to die, are you?" The insect classic only says that 9 poisonous insects eat each other, and when the last one is left, 9 poisonous insects are born naturally, but it does not mention the current situation. Yu Chain was not around at the moment, and Shenyazi didn't have any personal discussion. He thought about it and continued to drip blood into the pottery urn. The blood essence fell on the red frog and was absorbed by it. At the same time, the blood color on its body slowly faded, revealing a jade-like whiteness, but its aura became stronger. It seems that some kind of magical transformation is going on. Just a drop of blood, and only a small part of the red skin on its body faded away, which shows that it still needs more. Shen Yizi had no choice but to continue bleeding. 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops. The red color on the red frog's body melts like ice and snow when it meets the sun, revealing a snow-white background. However, when this change proceeds to the head, the speed suddenly slows down. She provided a few drops of blood to make the blood color fade a little. However, things have progressed to this extent, wouldn't it be a shame to give up again? It is not advisable to give up halfway, so Shen Yizi can only grit his teeth and continue to persevere. Having run out of pills and spiritual food, Shen Yizi began to take advantage of those spiritual medicines that nourished blood and qi. Eat raw directly. At the back, her face became paler and paler. When the blood tank was almost empty, the last bit of blood on the frog faded away and turned completely white. The whole body is as white as jade, like a jade carving, and the 2 eyes are crystal clear, like 2 red gems. The overall size is only the size of a grape, delicate and small, lying quietly and motionless, just like a jade sculpture. The 9 poison goo is done. Shen Yizi forced a drop of his heart's blood from his fingertips to make him recognize his master and complete the last step. When she sensed a weak but solid connection with the 9 poison goo, she fainted with relief. Ju poison goo jumped out of the pottery urn, lay down on the edge, looked at Shen Yizi for a while, jumped onto her chest, and lay still. It was already the next day when Shen Yizi woke up. My body still feels like it has been hollowed out. After all, so much blood and essence has been lost, and it cannot be recovered in a short time. But fortunately, it's not serious. Yesterday, she fainted before she could check the condition of the 9 poison goo. When she saw it now, she couldn't help but be shocked. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 54. This 9 poison goo was actually at the late stage of the first level as soon as it was born, and its strength is comparable to that of a late stage qi refining monk. Not to mention its powerful toxicity. This is equivalent to her now having a late stage qi refining monk as a helper. Shen Yizi looked at the little frog lying in the palm of his hand and gently touched its back with his fingers. From now on, you will be called by little frog. The little white frog made a clear and loud cry at her, as if in response. The goo insects in the later stages of qi refining have already acquired a certain amount of intelligence and can communicate without any obstacles. Shen Yizi took Bai Xiao out of the space. Unexpectedly, as soon as she came out, she felt the ground shaking. The big tree she was sitting on was actually tilting towards the ground. Her consciousness swept away and she discovered that there were 2 monsters fighting hand to hand underneath. One of them is still an old acquaintance of hers, the ferocious beast that used to lick her wildly for the spiritual spring. The other one is a giant python as thick as a bucket. Its dark python skin glows with a cold light, making people shudder. As a mortal before, she only vaguely felt that the ferocious beast was very powerful, but did not have a clear understanding. Now that she has entered the qi refining stage, she can clearly sense that the ferocious beast at least has the strength of the late stage of qi refining. It's just that for some reason, the aura on it is very weak, and the strength it exerts is obviously inconsistent with its level. He was being pressed down and beaten by the giant python. Originally, in a fight of this level, Shen Yizi had better stay away. The most correct thing to do was to quickly hide in the space, stay there for a while, and then come out after the storm subsided. Although she had a relationship with the ferocious beast, there was no need to fight the giant python for it, right? However, when she saw a small beast stumbling out of the cave protected by the beast, she could no longer sit idly by. That little beast was obviously a newly born child of a ferocious beast. It was still stained with mucus and blood stains brought from its mother's womb, and its eyes had not been opened. Dan Su sensed that her mother was in danger, so she ran out of the cave. After the giant python saw the little ferocious beast, it locked onto it instantly, obviously to do harm to it. As both a mother, Shen Yizi found that she could not watch the little ferocious beast fall into the snake's mouth. Little frog. Shen Yizi jumped out with a dragon-tooth dagger in his hand, summoning a small white frog at the same time. Although the white frog is small in size, not even as big as a python scale, its lethality is sufficient. As soon as it appears, it launches a sonic attack at the python. In an instant, it seems that there are tens of millions of frogs chirping at the scene. The python's body visibly slowed down. Shen Yizi took the opportunity to step forward and hug the little ferocious beast and send it into the space. When the snake bit it down, Yun Yanbu activated his body like smoke and swept aside to the side of the ferocious beast. Open your mouth. The ferocious beast opened its mouth obediently, and she directly condensed a small ball of spiritual spring and threw it into its mouth. The giant python missed the target with one blow and smelled the aura of the spiritual spring. Crazy greed flashed in its eyes, and it suddenly turned around and swept in. Its huge body was incredibly flexible at this time. Shen Yizi was shocked. His body was locked by the cold energy and he couldn't move. Fortunately, the ferocious beast reacted in time, bit her and jumped to the side to avoid the blow. The little white frog took the opportunity to jump onto the giant python, opened its mouth and spit out a long and slender tongue, ignoring the python's hard scale armor, and pierced directly into its body like a sharp needle, injecting poison at the same time. The python let out a sharp roar in pain, and its tail kept slapping the ground, lifting up countless rotten leaves and covering up the meager sunlight. It desperately tried to throw off the little thing on its body, but unfortunately the little white frog's flippers were firmly attached to its body, and it remained motionless no matter how wildly it swayed. The tongue is like a venomous thorn. It pokes in one at a time. Although the area of damage is not large, the pain it brings to the python is not trivial. Imagine a poisonous bee constantly staring at a person and inserting needles, and you will know what kind of torture the python is suffering at this moment. Shen Yizi also joined the battle group, relying on his nimble and quick movements to keep wandering around the giant python, hitting it with the dragon-tooth dagger in his hand whenever it felt cold. Although she is only at the third level of chi refining, she has the spiritual spring as a supplement, so she doesn't have to worry about consuming it at all. The dragon-tooth dagger in his hand has a natural suppression on the giant python. Coupled with the fact that the poison injected by the white frog slowly penetrated into the giant python, its movements became slower and slower. With the nourishment of the spiritual spring, the ferocious beast also regained a certain degree of combat effectiveness. As the main combatant, it confronted the giant python head-on and attracted its firepower. Finally, half an hour later, with the tacit cooperation of one person, one frog, and one beast, the giant python was consumed to death. Originally, it sensed something was wrong and wanted to run away, but unfortunately it was already deeply poisoned and could not escape at all. With the threat gone, Shen Yizi breathed a long sigh of relief and put the python's body into the space with a wave of his hand. Soon, the little ferocious beast was released. After staying in the space for a while, the little guy's condition seemed much better, and his eyes actually opened. As soon as he came out, he ran directly to his beast mother. The beast's big tongue licked its body. When he raised his head again, he looked at Shen Yizi's eyes full of gratitude. He walked up to her and rubbed his head against her body. As a result, it was covered in blood and rubbed all over her body. However, Shen Yizi had just gone through a fierce fight and was already in a mess. It wouldn't be a big deal if he got a little more blood now. Okay, it's time for me to go back, let's see you next time. Shen Yizi slapped the beast's head a few times and turned around to leave, but the hem of his skirt was bitten. What's wrong? The ferocious beast grabbed the cub in its mouth, jumped forward, and looked back at her, as if gesturing for her to follow. Did the ferocious beast want to take her somewhere? Shen Yizi thought for a while and followed. Following the ferocious beast, they came to a cave. There was a fishy smell in the cave, which was very dark and damp. There were also a large number of animal bones inside. When he saw the snake shed in the corner, Shenyazi realized that this was probably the same thing as before. The python's cave. Not far from the snake's slough, there was a relatively fresh and complete skeleton lying there. It seemed that it had been spit out by the giant python not long ago. She didn't pay much attention to it at first, but when she discovered that it was a tiger bone, she couldn't help but feel hopeful, and hurriedly stepped forward to check the age of the tiger bone. To her great surprise, this tiger bone was obviously over 100 years old, which just met her requirements for making medicine. There is no place to be found even if one wears iron shoes, and it takes no effort to get there. I didn't expect that a kind-hearted person who helped a ferocious beast would receive such a blessing. If she had been cruel and not taken action at that time, then the ferocious beast and the small beast might have died in the snake's mouth. Wouldn't she have missed this tiger bone? Shenyazi put the tiger bones into the space with a wave of his hand and rubbed the beast's fur. "Thank you very much." A drop of spiritual spring formed on the tip of her finger. The ferocious beast stretched out its tongue and licked it unceremoniously. After licking it, it looked at her eagerly, as if hoping for more. "It's gone." Shenyazi hit it on the head with his finger. Perhaps now that she has cultivated herself and has the grace to save the beast, her attitude towards it has become much more casual, not as fearful as before. A hint of grievance flashed in the beast's eyes, and he led her deeper into the cave. "Is there anything good in it?" Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 55. Shenyazi's expectation was good. Deep in the cave, there was a small tree half a man tall. The bark and leaves were dark purple, but the strange thing was that there were snake scale-like patterns on the surface, which looked a little, infiltrate people. Obviously she had never seen this kind of tree before, but the moment she saw it, a related memory emerged in her mind. The small tree in front of you is called the purple scale tree. It likes shade and usually grows in dark and humid places. Snakes often gather around it. The mucus on snakes helps them grow. The two can be regarded as going hand in hand. Purple scale trees that are more than 300 years old will produce purple scale fruits. Purple scale fruits are a precious treasure of heaven and earth, and have the effect of purifying blood. On the purple scaled tree in front of me, there were exactly 3 fruits the size of a child's fist hanging on it. The ferocious beast stared at the fruits with some covetousness, but Shenyazi did not move, so it could not help but push her with its head. "Don't worry, I'll pick the fruit right now. The fruit is ripe and ready to be picked." Shenyazi has used his spiritual sense to explore it, and there is no other threat here. After all, this place used to be the cave of a giant python. This purple-scaled fruit was occupied by it. It is estimated that no other monster would dare to come and make plans. And it had just died, and its breath still lingered in the cave, and no other creature dared to approach it for a while. Now, Shenyazi and Xiong Beast are at a disadvantage. She picked 2 fruits, and the remaining one was transplanted into the space together with the tree and the fruit. The ferocious beast opened its mouth and rolled a fruit into its mouth. The remaining one did not move, but pushed it towards Shenyazi. This beast also knows how to be humble. Shenyazi felt a little moved in his heart, but did not accept it. "I have already taken the fruit and the tree, this one should be yours, take it." The beast tilted its head as if thinking, and Shenyazi fed the fruit directly to it. In the end, it couldn't resist the temptation of the spirit fruit. It opened its mouth and rolled the fruit in, but it fed back a small half to the little ferocious beast. Shenyazi thought she could finally go down the mountain and go home. Unexpectedly, after leaving the cave, the ferocious beast signaled her to follow him. "No way. Any surprises?" Following the beast all the way deeper, one person and one beast finally came to a cliff. In Shenyazi's surprised eyes, the ferocious beast crashed directly into the cliff and disappeared. As if realizing that she had not followed, the ferocious beast poked its head out from the cliff. It looked as if a head had grown out of the cliff. Although he had a life-saving grace for the ferocious beast, he could not blindly trust it, so Shenyazi sent the white frog out first and let it go ahead of him. She is connected to the white frog's consciousness. As long as the distance is not too far, the information it sees and hears can be fed back to her simultaneously, just like the five senses are shared. This way, if any danger occurs, she can respond in time. There was a passage inside the cliff that led to an unknown place. After walking for about 10 minutes, a light appeared in front of us. It seemed that we had reached the end. After going out, Shenyazi was stunned by the sight in front of him. The moment she stepped out of the passage, she felt as if she had entered the fairy world from the earthly world. I saw a scene of prosperous flowers and trees, bright smoke and clouds in front of me. Gorgeous butterflies were wandering among the flowers, and an extremely luxurious and beautiful palace was hidden among them. What surprised her even more was that the aura here was much richer than the outside world. Although it was still far from the level in her space, it was still better than many places. It can be regarded as a paradise of heaven and earth. The ferocious beast is obviously very familiar with this place. As soon as he came in, he felt as if he had returned to his own home. He lay lazily on the thick and tender grass and watched the little ferocious beast playing with the butterflies. Since there is a palace, there must be people living here. Would you be regarded as a thief if you trespassed into other people's territory like this? At first, Shenyazi was a little nervous, but after walking around, she found that there was no one here at all. Did the master happen to be out? When she came to the back of the palace, a rolling medicinal field appeared in her field of vision, and she could feel the strong medicinal fragrance when she breathed. Shenyazi was a little excited. He walked quickly to the medicine field and walked around like a cheerful butterfly. Astragalus, ginseng, angelica, polygonatum, nightshade, poria, fleece flower root, aphrodisiac bean, rhizome grass. She actually knew every medicinal plant here. No, not only knew it, but also felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if she had taken care of these medicinal herbs herself. Master, I have read about this spiritual light bean in a book. It is said that when boiled with calamus leaves on a stone, it will become as big as a goose egg, pure purple in color, weighing 1 pound, and extremely fragrant. If you eat one, it will. I don't know if it's true that I won't be hungry for several days. Why don't I give it a try? An 8 or 9-year-old girl stood on the edge of a field and said to the tall man next to her. The man tapped her on the head with his crooked finger. Don't think I don't know you are greedy. Don't touch this spiritual light bean. I am of great use. Mean. This scene suddenly appeared in my mind. The little girl seemed to be her original self, but she couldn't remember what the man she called her master looked like. As I thought deeply, my head felt a sharp pain. Shenyazi stopped in a hurry and stopped thinking about it. But, at this moment, she couldn't help but become extremely curious about the original person's life experience. It turns out that she also has a master. She once lived in this fairyland-like place. Shenyazi looked at the endless medicinal field in front of him, with a sly arc on his lips. Since she was once one of the owners here, if she picked some medicinal materials, it shouldn't be considered stealing, right? Just now she discovered a 1,000-year-old Polygonum multiflorum plant in the Polygonum multiflorum field. 1,000-year-old Polygonum multiflorum is one of the main ingredients in refining facial rejuvenation ointment. I didn't expect that on this trip to Qingmang Mountain, I would be so lucky and find 2 needed medicinal materials at once. As long as she finds the last thing, Pingyang flower, she can refine the rejuvenating cream. By then, it will not be far away from her regaining her appearance. Although she doesn't care what others think, is there any woman who doesn't love beauty? She is also very stressed out having a face covered with horrible scars all day long. Shenyazi carefully dug out Polygonum multiflorum, and then turned his attention to other medicinal materials. After working hard for a few hours, Shenyazi almost planted all the extra land in the space, and there was no room for another medicinal plant. Looking at the countless medicinal materials left in the medicine field, she felt very heartbroken. It would be great if they could all be transplanted. Forget it, you can't be too greedy. Just what she dug up just now is enough for her to use for a long time. Before leaving, Shenyazi left several jars of wine and a pile of food outside the palace. Since she was not sure when the person who might be her master would come back, she carved a preservation array and put the things into the array. Middle. Of course, she didn't leave the ferocious beast behind either, and left a lot of food and drink for it and the little ferocious beast. After all, if it weren't for it, she wouldn't have been able to find her way here, right? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 56. On the way down the mountain, Shenyazi caught a few prey and brought them down the mountain, giving them to Aunt Li and asking her to give the workers extra meals. This move was cheered by everyone. "Ji Niang, you can stay and eat too," Aunt Li said. "No, Auntie, I've been away for a few days. Qingbao probably misses me, so I have to go back early." "Okay, I'll make you something delicious next time you come back." Aunt Li stood there and watched her leave on the green donkey. Thinking about her previous words and deeds, I always felt that she was very different from before. Although she was still the same person, the energy in her body looked completely different from before. But no matter what, as long as Ji Niang is still Ji Niang, why should she worry so much? Just help her take care of the food on the construction site. Shenyazi couldn't wait to rush back, thinking that Qingbao would miss him very much if he wasn't here these days, and he might even cry when he couldn't find him. Thinking of this, she felt even more anxious to go home, wishing she could just put on a pair of wings and fly back. However, what she didn't know was that Qingbao was indeed sad for a while because of her leaving at first, but he was soon coaxed by Gu Swiding and Sujaki Yu. At this moment, Gu Swiding was walking around the market with Qingbao in his arms, while Suyuya carried things for him without complaint. It's all about things related to eating, drinking and having fun. There is no other way. Gu Swiding is a man who is not short of money and dotes on Qingbao infinitely. He will buy everything Qingbao takes a second look at. But Suyuyu, who was following behind, was reduced from being a playmate responsible for teasing Qingbao to being a porter. But looking at Qingbao's cute and invincible appearance, he was very happy. "Okay." There was a loud cheer and applause from the front. As expected, Qingbao's attention was attracted, and Gu Swiding walked over there without any help from him. It turned out that what was surrounded by the crowd was a sideshow stall. Under the encouragement of the stall owner, a nimble and cute little monkey performed various difficult movements between the fire ring and the string, and people kept cheering. Qingbao also clapped his hands and kicked his legs excitedly. Halfway through the rope walk, the little monkey seemed to be tired and squatted on it panting. His movements and expressions were just like those of human beings, and everyone was amazed to see him. The stall owner spread his hands helplessly and threw a copper coin. The little monkey immediately jumped up, grabbed the copper coin, and put it into a cloth bag hanging around his neck. After getting this copper coin, the little monkey became lively again. He caught the plate thrown by the stall owner and threw it flexibly. At first there were only 2, but soon it became 3, then 4. Walking on a rope is not difficult for a monkey, but it is very difficult for a monkey to throw 4 plates out of the flowers on the rope. However, when the stall owner wanted to continue throwing plates, the little monkey gave up and climbed onto the pole and stopped. The stall owner said, "Everyone has seen that my monkey is obsessed with money. If you don't give me money, you can't control it. If you guys want to continue to watch it play tricks, Please support me with money, give it some money. This way of asking for reward money is really novel. The audience wanted to see how many plates the little monkey could catch, so they opened their money bags and took out the reward money. The little monkey slipped down from the pole neatly, took the reward money from everyone's hands, and put it into his own money bag. This money-obsessed look made everyone laugh again. When he arrived in front of Goosewitting, the little monkey was shocked when he saw him. He didn't even want the reward and was about to run away. However, Qingbao held his tail firmly in his hand. The little monkey screamed in pain, turned around and bared its teeth at Qingbao, threatening him to let go of his tail. It's a pity that Qingbao didn't show any fear at all. He grabbed his tail and dragged him over, touching his face curiously. "Brother." The little monkey was stunned for a moment. "Right? This little doll actually recognized him. What is his relationship with his uncle?" The little monkey was surprised and struggled even harder, for fear of being caught by Goosewitting. Goosewitting was afraid that it would hurt Qingbao, so he stretched out his arm to block Qingbao. "Baby, let go quickly." It's a pity that Qingbao spotted this little monkey and refused to let go. The stall owner came over and said, "Hey, what's wrong with your child? Why are you holding on to my monkey? I won't be responsible if it gets scratched." Goosewitting tried to pry Qingbao's hand away, but his small hands were very strong, and he was afraid that the force would be too strong and hurt him, so he was in trouble. Suyu, who finally squeezed in at this time, saw this situation and immediately said, "Stall owner, do you want to sell this monkey? Since our children like it so much, you can sell it to us. You can set a price." The stall owner looked at him and then at Goosewitting. The two of them looked like they were rich people. If the monkeys were gone, they could buy more, but there was no reason to miss out on the business that came to their door. With the idea of taking advantage of the opportunity to make a killing, he pretended to be embarrassed. "This monkey has been following me for 2 or 3 years. I raised it from a little bigger than a fist to as big as it is now. Little monkey, bah. I've only been following you for more than a month, okay. 50 taels, do you want to sell it?" Suyu calmly increased the price. The stall owner's heart skipped a beat. This is a big fat sheep. The relationship I've had in the past 2 or 3 years is not something I can just give up. I have no father, no mother, no children, and this monkey is equivalent to my child. Do you think I can sell my child? 100 taels. Suyu Shiren shook the folding fan in his hand. The melon eaters around him couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Looking at Sujakiyu's eyes, isn't this a fool? A monkey has 3 taels of silver, and he actually spends dozens of times the price to buy it? Is there too much money to spend? Suyakiyu really doesn't care about this mere 100 taels. The pile of things he bought for Qingbao before was all paid by Goosewitting. He tried to grab them but couldn't, which was a pity. At this moment, he can find an opportunity to spend a lot of money on Qingbao. To the stall owner, hearing 100 taels was like a thunderclap in his ears, and he became more determined to make a huge profit. Yuchi looked at Sujakiyu, who looked like he would not give up until he bought the monkey. The fat sheep brought to the door in this way will not be slaughtered until they are slaughtered. Just as I was about to say a few more sensational words, the beads on my wrists suddenly started to get hot. That is the yin-yang bead given to him by the door owner to find people. Whoever can make it hot is the person he is looking for. The stall owner held the monkey in his arms, quietly approached Goosewitting and the others, and finally locked on the target, the little chubby boy who was holding onto the monkey's tail. Compared with the tasks assigned by the sect master, money and everything else are nothing. The stall owner was afraid that something might change later, so he stopped acting and changed the topic. "But I am a wanderer and live in the open all day long, so I can't give it a good life. In the past 2 years, it has suffered with me." He stroked the little monkey's head affectionately, and regardless of its struggle, he held it in his arms, as if it was about to separate its flesh and bones. It would be a blessing for it to follow the master. Master, please take it away. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 57. The stall owner's emotional performance could deceive the ignorant people, but he could not deceive Goosewitting and Sujaki Yu. As long as the goal is achieved, they don't want to worry about the rest. So the little monkey was taken away. Before leaving, it grabbed the stall owner's trouser leg and refused to let go. It kept barking, which made everyone present couldn't help but sigh, what a deep love between humans and monkeys. Some of them were sentimental and even wiped away tears on the spot. As everyone knows, the little monkey is not reluctant to leave the stall owner at all, but is yelling at him. What a bastard, you sold me for 100 taels of silver. I will kill all 9 of your clans. Shenyazi stepped into the small courtyard, fully expecting to be greeted by Qingbao's warm embrace. Unexpectedly, the room was empty. There was no one in the room. Where is Qingbao? Where is Goosewitting? He abducted Qingbao. Just as he was about to call Yi Chang, he heard bursts of laughter coming from next door. Hooping over the wall, she saw her beloved baby having fun with a monkey, but she heard something. Qingbao actually called that monkey brother? Goosewitting, your son calls a monkey brother, but you don't care about it? As if sensing something, Goosewitting happened to look over and spotted her. Shenyazi hurriedly made a shh gesture to him and slowly walked towards Qingbao. Suyaki Yu also discovered her, but before she could stop him, her whereabouts were revealed. Sisters Hizzy, you are back, you have been away these past few days, and I really haven't thought about anything. The tone is very exaggerated. Shenyazi rolled his eyes at him. He didn't want to eat or drink. Is it because he couldn't eat ordinary food after eating the delicious food she cooked? She was too lazy to pay attention to him, and showed a big smile to Qingbao who was looking over, and opened her arms. Baby, mother misses you so much. Come and give me a hug. Unexpectedly, Qingbao just glanced at her, then lowered his head and continued playing with the little monkey. Still turned sideways, with his back to her. It is not good to have a cold attitude. The 3 adults present were confused by him. Shenyazi felt like her heart was stabbed hard. How could her baby ignore her? Baby, I'm my mother. Shenyazi walked over, picked up Qingbao, greedily took a deep breath of the milky fragrance on his body, and kissed him several times. Qingbao slapped her hand, struggled to get off her, and stretched out his arm towards Goosewitting. I don't want you. I don't want you, wow. Crying very sadly. Shenyazi also wanted to cry, so he slapped Goosewitting's outstretched hand away and glared at him fiercely. What did you do to Qingbao? Why doesn't he recognize me now? Did you deliberately say it while I was away? You said something bad about me? You want to break up our mother and son and monopolize Qingbao? Goosewitting, I misjudged you. Ignoring Qingbao's struggle, he carried him over the courtyard wall and returned to his small courtyard. Goosewitting was about to catch up, but Sujaki Yu held him back. I advise you not to go. Let the mother and son be alone for a while first. A crease appeared between Goosewitting's eyebrows, obviously troubled by this matter. Qingbao him. Well, don't worry, Miss Shen is his mother and won't do anything to him. The little monkey, who was bound by a rope and was free, was gloating about his misfortune. The little fat man deserves it. You actually want to treat me as a plaything, you should be punished severely. He must be being spanked by that ugly woman right now, right? To be honest, although the little fat man is a little fatter, he still looks good. How could he have such an ugly mother? When he first saw it, he was shocked. However, the woman was so bold that she dared to attack my uncle. You know, he didn't even dare to show off his temper in front of his uncle. Thinking in his heart, the little monkey secretly glanced at Goosewitting. only to see him standing under the wall with his hands behind his hands, looking at the next door, obviously caring about the mother and son. He had heard the little fat man call his great-uncle before. Could it be that the mother and son were really being kept outside by his great-uncle? As soon as this idea came to his mind, he rejected it. How could your great-uncle do something like that? The little monkey was thinking wildly here, but the situation on the other side was not at all what he thought. Shen Yizi hugged Qingbao and gave him a good hug. He took out all kinds of delicious and fun things and placed them in front of him, hoping that he would stop crying. "Baby, you're crying so hard that your mother's heart is broken. How about we stop crying?" Shen Yizi kissed his face and kissed away his tears. Seeing Qingbao crying and hiccuping, she felt heartbroken. "Xiao Chang, Qingbao, what's going on? Please help me think of a solution." Yi Chang said, "Let me go to your space for a while." After staying in the outside world with thin spiritual energy for a few days, he missed Shen Yizi's space. "As soon as I entered, I couldn't help but let out a long and comfortable sigh. I guess Qingbao is angry with you, so he deliberately makes trouble with you." "Huh, are you angry with me? Such a little chubby guy still knows how to get angry. Don't think Qingbao is still young. In fact, he is no different from a 3 or 4-year-old child in all aspects now. How can he be angry? You secretly left him alone that day. When he woke up and saw you, he cried loudly. There was a fight. Gu Suiting and Suyuyu almost went crazy because of his torment, but they tried their best to coax them over. Now that you are back, Qingbao will not feel aggrieved when he sees you. Can he not make trouble with you?" Shen Yizi felt that Yi Chang's analysis was very reasonable. "I felt more and more guilty and pitiful towards Qingbao. Baby, it's all my fault. Mom wanted to say hello to you before leaving, but she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to leave you, so she didn't wait for you to wake up. Mom promises that she won't do it again next time. No. I will never be separated from our baby again, and no one can separate us. From now on, Mother will take you with her wherever she goes, okay?" Qingbao obviously understood her promise, and his crying finally weakened, and his big, watery, black eyes looked at her. Those eyelashes were thick, dense, and long, which made her feel soft. A puddle of water, wishing to give him his life. "Mother is bad." Qingbao hit her. "Yes, Mother is bad. She actually left our baby behind. She deserves a beating." Shen Yizi hit himself several times. In this case, Qingbao couldn't bear to part with her and grabbed her hand to prevent her from hitting her anymore. "The baby feels sorry for your mother." Shen Yizi took the opportunity to hold his face and kiss him hard. Qingbao was so kissed that she smiled like a flower. At this point, mother and son finally reconciled. Shen Yizi held Qingbao and sat on his lap, feeding him. She felt that Qingbao had lost weight in the past few days when she was away. Sure enough, she shouldn't leave her child to a man, no matter how reliable that man seems. Yu Chang in the space suddenly shouted in surprise, "Where did you get this purple scale fruit? Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome." Author, 955. Chapter 58. Shen Yizi talked about his experiences in the past few days, and introduced the new member Bai Zioa to Qingbao. Qingbao was obviously very interested in the little white frog and stared at it for a moment. Shen Yizi gave Bai Zioa the instruction not to harm Qingbao and to protect him at all times, so he gave it to Qingbao. I don't know if it's because Qingbao has become an acquired spirit, but the little white frog is very enthusiastic and proactive towards him. He lies in his white and tender hands and croaks. King Bao also responded very seriously, as if he was really communicating with it. "Purple scale fruit has the effect of purifying blood, but you actually gave out 2 of them." Yi Chang regretted it endlessly. If he had known it earlier, he would have followed her into the mountains. This is a purple scale fruit. He wouldn't have cared much about it before, but now that he has become a snake, this purple scale fruit is of great use to him. If it weren't for the ferocious beast, I wouldn't have discovered the purple scale fruit. You can't be too greedy, you know. Anyway, the purple scale fruit tree is in my hands, and it will produce more purple scale fruits in the future. Shen Yizi took the opportunity to educate Yi Chang. Since the purple scale fruit is so useful to you, just eat it. Yu Chang has complained to her more than once that the qualifications of the current snake body are too poor. Since the purple scale fruit can purify blood, then after eating it, his blood will be purified and his qualifications will definitely increase, right? It is true that Yi Chang wanted this purple scale fruit very much, and was even thinking about how to get it from Shen Yizi, but she gave it to him directly before he could ask. As if what was given was just an ordinary fruit. His heart suddenly felt swollen, as if a warm current was spreading everywhere. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but nothing came out. He remembered the sentiment. As a contractor, Shen Yizi also had a certain awareness of his emotional changes, and he smiled evilly with the corner of his mouth raised. Why, are you moved by this? Fortunately, you told me how awesome you were before, but now a purple lin fruit has bought you off. It seems that you will be moved by many things in the future. After all, I am the biological mother of heaven's beloved. I have perfect golden thighs. From now on, all kinds of heavenly and earthly treasures will definitely be lined up to be sent to me. You won't be able to be moved even if you want to be moved. Yu Chang. He was really defeated by her. Crawling over, he was about to swallow the purple scale fruit in one gulp when he suddenly remembered something. After eating the purple scale fruit, if my bloodline is successfully purified, I may fall into a deep sleep and I will not be able to accompany you for a period of time in the future. You have to be careful around you and Qingbao. Don't worry, I have white little frog now. It's the same with or without you. Shen Yizi held Qingbao's hand and fed little white frog a drop of the spiritual spring. Shen Yizi, I found you drifting. Don't think that you can do whatever you want with a goo insect in the late stage of qi refining. There are still many dangers in this world that you can't imagine. You must always be cautious, cautious, cautious. Understand? This time Shen Yizi's tone was much more solemn. Have you ever heard that being a mother means you are strong? Even if it is for Qingbao, I will not put myself in danger. Yu Chang finally swallowed the purple scale fruit in one gulp with confidence. However, halfway through swallowing, he suddenly thought of something again. That little monkey was hit by the green sack technique. It was actually a human cub. I didn't care about it at first, but when I heard Qingbao kept calling him brother, I felt something was wrong. Finally, I used the fire observation technique to take a look and found out. He is actually a human being. He is not very young, he is only 7 or 8 years old. Please be careful when you are in front of him. Not long after Yi Chang swallowed the purple scale fruit, the whole snake trembled at an extremely high frequency as if it had been electrocuted. Shen Yizi was a little worried at first, but seeing that he was fine even though he was shaking, he stopped paying attention. Consciousness exited the space, and she couldn't help but fall into deep thought. The green bladder technique that can turn a person into a monkey. If her Qingbao is also turned into a monkey. Involuntarily recalling the scene, Shen Yizi looked at Qingbao struggling with a piece of honey cake in front of him and couldn't help but laugh. Qingbao looked up at her, a little confused. She pinched his face and said, "Baby, you just need to grow up healthy and happy, and leave the rest to mother." Qingbao seemed to understand, and grinned, his smile as clean and bright as the rising sun. "It's time to eat, come and help me serve the food." In the kitchen, before Shen Yizi finished speaking, Sujaki Yu couldn't wait to walk in, and came out with a plate of fried chicken with sauce. He leaned closer and smelled it, with a look of intoxication on his face. The little monkey saw this and looked at him with contempt. However, he soon became as virtuous as the people he despised. "Smell good. It was so fragrant that his soul seemed to be breaking through the constraints of his body. As the eldest grandson of the emperor, he had never tasted any delicacies in the palace, but he had never tasted anything like this before. Just smelling it made his mouth water. In order to thank Goosewitting and Suyuyu for helping her take care of Qingbao these days, Shenyazi made this meal extremely sumptuous. I started preparing it at around 1 p.m., and it's almost 7 p.m. now when the meal is ready. It took her 6 hours, so you can imagine how delicious this dish is. Soft fried liver tips, braised shark's fin, pork belly with pickled vegetables, braised fish lips, soft crispy crucian carp, roast goose, shredded yam, sugared lotus root elbow, and ham stewed bamboo shoots. Except for the dim sum dish of shredded yam, every dish is a big dish that requires careful cooking. There are also a few stir-fried side dishes that don't require too much heat. The whole table is full of food, which makes people's index fingers tickle just by looking at it. At the round table, Qingbao was placed in the main seat. Shenyazi and Goosewitting sat on his left and right, and next to Shenyazi was Suyuyu. The little monkey saw that he had no place for himself. He thought that since he was a monkey now, no one would strictly enforce his own rules, so he simply let himself go and rushed directly to Qingbao, trying to get food from his bowl. He finally saw clearly that this little fat man had the highest status here. Shenyazi glanced at it. If it wasn't for Yi Chang's reminder, she really wouldn't have been able to tell that this monkey was actually a human being. Looking at it, it looks like a monkey. Shenyazi gave it a place next to Qingbao and placed a plate to make it easier for it to eat and prevent it from stretching out its paws directly. Then they don't have to eat? The little monkey didn't know what she was thinking. Instead, he felt that he was being taken seriously and gave Shenyazi a look of approval. If you look carefully, this woman is not that ugly. When eating, Qingbao only needs to wave the spoon. Shenyazi and Goosewitting will pick up whatever he wants to eat. The little monkey suddenly became jealous. Why was this little fat man treated so much better than him? Great uncle even fed him himself. Su was wearing a monkey's skin, and he was much more courageous than usual, so he directly grabbed a meatball from Qingbao's bowl. He not only robbed it, but also smiled proudly at Qingbao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 59. Qingbao was stunned for a moment, but he didn't argue with him, and even took the initiative to grab a piece of goose meat from his bowl and gave it to him. Brother, eat it. The little monkey looked disgusted and was grabbed by his meaty hands. Can the meat still be eaten? Shenyazi had been secretly observing the monkey, and when he saw that he dared to dislike his little baby, he immediately felt unhappy. Eat it. If you don't eat it, I will put you in a cage and only give you steamed buns to eat every day. She doesn't care if it's a child or not, as long as she bullies her precious child, it will be unforgivable. The little monkey gnashed his teeth. This woman is so bold. How dare you order him like this? Just wait for me, Your Highness. When I regain my true form, I will ask grandfather to arrest you immediately. However, at this moment, under her forcing gaze, the little monkey had no choice but to swallow the piece of goose meat. He swore that he would never eat goose meat again. After having enough wine and food, several people were a little exhausted and slumped in their chairs, not wanting to move. However, under Shenyazi's look, Goosewitting and Suyuyu had to stand up and clear away the leftovers on the table. The little monkey looked at it, dumbfounded. His great uncle, who he had always kept aloof from, was actually being sent to do such a thing by this woman. Is there any heavenly justice? The most incredible thing to him was that his uncle didn't seem to be reluctant at all. He felt that he was frightened. Looking at Shenyazi again, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of admiration that he was unaware of. The table was cleared, and Shen Yizi made a pot of tea. The tea leaves were picked from the tea trees in the space. She also dug the tea tree from that master. It was originally a top-quality tea tree that was rarely seen outside. After being nourished by spiritual energy, every tea leaf was green and refreshing, and the tea fragrance was timeless. Shen Yizi took a slow sip and instantly felt his body refreshed, with a clear and sweet aroma that was memorable. The little monkey smelled the aroma of tea and was a little eager to make a move. When she wasn't paying attention, he secretly approached the teacup and took a sip. As everyone knows, all this is under her perception. Tasty? She asked suddenly, startling the little monkey and almost knocking over the teacup. The little monkey turned his head to meet her penetrating eyes, feeling as if he had been seen through by her. Want to regain your body? He heard her ask. Why has the little monkey become wilted? When Suyuya came out, he found that the originally very active little monkey suddenly became quiet and squatted under the honeysuckle wall, looking like he was thinking about life. Maybe I'm thinking about something, Shen Yi knew. Gu Swiding sat down next to her and poured himself a cup of tea. As soon as you drink it, you will feel a big difference. The taste is slightly similar to the spiritual tea that Master Changfeng served him before, but it is more mellow and sweet. Sujakio asked directly, what kind of tea is this? My old man spent a lot of money to buy 1 or 2 snow tuanlong, which looked like a treasure. He bought me a drink. I was surprised at the time. But compared with your tea, it instantly becomes water. Gu Swiding spit out 2 words, Ling Cha. Suyakiyu's eyes widened instantly. Even monks may not be able to enjoy spiritual tea. There is a monk in their family. Every time I see him, he looks down on ordinary people with his nose turned to the sky. However, even when he treats the spiritual tea, he treats it with great care and treats it like a treasure. No one is as casual as she is. Could it be that she is a hidden master? Facing Sujakiyu's probing eyes, Shen Yizi remained calm, neither denying nor admitting, so he just let them guess. The more complex the origin of her identity is, the better. Okay, you can go, the little monkey stays. Shen Yizi started to drive people away. After all, it's getting late. Sujakiyu didn't move his buttocks. Hey, don't worry, I just ate too much meat, I need to drink a few cups of tea to relieve my tiredness. This is something even a monk treasures. If we don't take the opportunity to drink a few more glasses, wouldn't it be a waste of money? Shen Yizi didn't care about them. He held Qingbao, called the little monkey, and entered the inner room. She bathed Qingbao and the little monkey, put them on the bed, and let them play by themselves, while she took a book and sat on the bedside to read leisurely. After Bao Yuhao fell asleep on the bed, she cleared away the pile of toys on the bed, straightened the 2 of them, covered them with quilts, and lay down on them. The conscious body entered the space, looked at Yi Chang, and found that the turbulent aura on his body had calmed down. It seemed that he had passed the initial dangerous period, so he relaxed and started practicing with peace of mind. The emperor's eldest grandson. In the early morning, Sujakiyu climbed over the wall to eat as usual. When he saw the child playing with Qingbao in the yard, he exclaimed. Fearing that he might be mistaken, he took a closer look. After confirming that it was indeed the emperor's eldest grandson, Gu Hongsun, he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Why did the missing emperor's eldest grandson appear here? Shen Yizi came out with the dishes and said as he passed him, he is the monkey you brought back yesterday. What? This emperor's eldest grandson was transformed from a monkey? He immediately sent a message to Gu Swiding, saying that he had found the emperor's eldest grandson and asked him to come over quickly. At this time, Gu Swiding was receiving the baptism of Master Changfeng's Buddhist skills in order to suppress the increasingly active demonic poison in his body. The baptism was over and he rushed back to the courtyard immediately after reading the letter. At this time, Shenyazi and the others had not yet finished their breakfast, and he happened to catch up. Now that he has recovered his body, Gu Hongsoon did not dare to act impudently in front of his great-uncle Gu Switting. He behaved extremely well behaved and polite throughout the whole process, which was very different from the naughty little monkey he was yesterday. After eating, Shenyazi went to work in the medical clinic, leaving the space and the mess on the table to a few people. Putting down his chopsticks, Gu Switting started to speak, and Gu Hongsoon explained everything about himself as if he were pouring beans out of a bamboo tube. After listening, Gu Switting and Suyu looked at each other, both speechless. It turns out that Gu Hongsoon's disappearance was not caused by someone else's conspiracy, but because he was naughty and ran to the imperial master, stole the elixir he refined, and somehow turned into a monkey. He was panicked at first, but soon he realized the advantage of becoming a monkey, that is, he no longer had to act like the eldest grandson of the emperor and abide by various etiquette rules. He can do whatever he wants. No one else would care about a monkey anyway, and the palace people were all vying to feed him and tease him. After wandering around the palace as a monkey for 2 days, he lost interest and ran out of the palace. He has longed for the world outside the palace for a long time. Now that he has finally found an opportunity, how can he let it go? However, after the initial excitement period, various difficulties ensued. At first, the food, drink and sleep were not satisfactory, and then I was almost caught. But overall, his life was quite carefree. It's a pity that extreme joy brings sorrow, and tragic things happen. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 60. One time it rained heavily, and he couldn't find a place to hide from the rain. He was caught in the rain for a while, and he almost lost his life due to a high fever. Fortunately, he was rescued by Lucci. Lucci was the man who made money by juggling with him, and the who ruthlessly sold him for 100 taels of silver. After being rescued by Lucci, he worked with Lucci all the way. No, they worked together to develop the juggling business, bringing joy to people and earning some travel expenses at the same time. Unknowingly, they came to Langcheng. If Qingbao hadn't held on to him, causing Sujaki Yu to buy him back, he might still be hanging out with Lucci right now. After explaining everything, Gu Hongsoon was like a prisoner, waiting for Gu Switting's judgment with his head hanging down. Unexpectedly, Gu Switting did not reprimand him, but placed a big palm on his head and pressed it hard. Your father and grandfather are very worried about you, don't be so willful next time. That's it, is it over? Gu Hongsoon was a little in disbelief. Immediately, I couldn't help but feel happy in my heart, and moved closer to him. Uncle, can you not send me back? I want to continue to experience more of the hardships of people's livelihood. He himself knew that this was a bit nonsense, so he added, and I can't bear to part with your treasure. He held Qingbao's hand, acting like a good brother. Qingbao didn't know that he was being used as an excuse, so he sweetly called him brother. Not to mention, this brother's voice pleased Gu Hongsoon very much. He is the youngest in the palace and has always been treated as a junior. Now that he has a younger brother, he instantly feels much taller. Looking at the two little guys loving each other, Gu Switting thought for a moment and agreed. But he added another condition: I will write to your grandfather and tell him your whereabouts. You can explain your previous experience yourself and send it back with my letter. Okay, Gu Hongsoon agreed obediently. Besides, my and your identities are not allowed to be revealed here. You are my grandnephew in the clan, do you understand? Understood. Gu Switting nodded with satisfaction. Okay, let's take Qingbao to play. In the yard, Qingbao showed his new pet to Gu Hongsoon. Brother, little frog. At first, Gu Hongsoon thought it was an exquisite and small frog-shaped jade sculpture. Unexpectedly, the little frog actually called out to him, startling him, is this alive? Qingbao poked the little frog, it's alive. Let me play with it. Gu Hongsoon stretched out his hand. He had never seen a white frog before, and it was so beautiful. Qingbao picked up the small white frog and handed it to him. However, before he could take action, the little white frog jumped back again, lay on his head, and screamed at Gu Hongsoon. The scream contained a look of disdain. Gu Hongsoon felt that he was nakedly despised. He still had to catch this little frog. However, with his skills, how could he catch the little frog in the late stage of qi refining? On the contrary, he was tossed around by the little frog and was so tired that he was panting. The little frog returned to Qingbao and lay obediently on his shoulder. Gu Hongsoon was so angry that he pushed Qingbao to the ground and said angrily, "Give it to me." Qingbao sat down on the ground. This time the little white frog has been offended. He dares to bully its owner. He really thinks it is just a display. It suddenly grew in size and slapped Gu Hongsoon to the ground with one tongue. Gu Hongsoon was frightened and in pain. When he realized what he was doing, he burst into tears. Suyaki Yu, who was slumped on a recliner enjoying tea, suddenly woke up. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Seeing the little white frog that had grown dozens of times in size and was so close to the two children, my heart almost jumped out of my throat. If something happened to Ahong and Qingbao, even his death would not be enough to apologize. Gu Swiding heard the movement coming from next door, and his expression also changed. Only Qingbao was the calmest in the whole place. Not only was he not frightened, he even climbed onto the little white frog. The little white frog also petted him and took the initiative to become smaller to make it easier for him to climb up. After he sits firmly, take him around the yard. Qingbao was so happy that he slapped him in the face. "Dad," he waved to Gu Swiding. Gu Swiding came over and took him down, but Bai Frog did not do anything harmful. Instead, it became smaller again and jumped into Qingbao's open hand. Gu Swiding finally understood that this was a toy that Shen Yazi had found for Qingbao. There was a red snake before, and now a strange white frog appeared. Why can't she find some normal toys for Qingbao? If this continues, Qingbao will be misled if he is not sure. Gu Hongsoon came over and grabbed the hem of his clothes. "Uncle, that white frog bullied me. I'm going to kill it." No one expected that the white frog would attack him with thunderous force. This time, he was whipped away directly. Fortunately, Sujaki reacted quickly and caught him, otherwise he would have fallen and been seriously injured. Gu Hongsoon once again burst into tears and cried down the great wall. Gu Swiding scolded coldly, "Stop crying." Gu Hongsoon choked up all of a sudden and couldn't help hiccuping, but due to his majesty, he really didn't dare to cry anymore. What happened? Gu Swiding sat down with Qingbao in his arms. He also saw clearly that the white frog in Qingbao's hand did not attack without reason, so Gu Hongsoon must have done something to annoy it before, so it was attacked by him. Gu Hongsoon saw that he only cared about Qingbao and hugged him so affectionately. What about his attitude towards him? So cold. Suddenly, I felt envious, jealous, and resentful towards Qingbao. Why did my uncle dote on him so much? Why did he have such a powerful pet? He is the eldest grandson of the emperor. This little fat man is just a commoner from a remote place, and his status is completely different from his. The more he thought about it, the angrier Gu Hongsoon became. He even ignored Gu Swiding's words and stood there with his head lowered and said nothing. As a result, all the pressure was instantly transferred to Sujaki Yu. But he happened to be lazy and take a nap just now, and failed to fulfill his duty to take care of the two little guys. He had no idea what just happened. Faced with Gu Swiding's deep gaze, he felt guilty. Gu Swiding no longer counted on him, so he simply asked Qingbao, "Baby, what happened just now?" Although he doted on Qingbao, he never treated him as an ignorant child, but treated him as an equal. This differential treatment once again aroused Gu Hongsoon's dissatisfaction. Qingbao was playing with the little frog. Brother, I caught the little frog, but I didn't catch it, so he pushed me. Things are clear. Gu Swiding said to Gu Hongsoon, Ah Hong, what else do you have to say? Gu Hongsoon's lips moved, but he couldn't refute. You will be punished to face the wall and think for 3 hours, copy the 1,000-character essay 3 times, and hand it over to me after 3 days. Do you accept it? Gu Hongsoon was naturally dissatisfied, but he did not have the courage to refuse, and he became even more dissatisfied with Qingbao. But after all, he grew up in the palace, and it was almost instinctive to observe people's emotions. He knew that he was alone, so he obeyed obediently. Gu Swiding looked at his unconvinced expression and frowned slightly, but he didn't say anything else to avoid further arousing his rebellious spirit.